Hey, what's up you guys, Bloody Jacob here to bring you my movie review of Doctor Strange, which of course just came out a few days ago, and I just seen it with my girlfriend today. Didn't see it in 3D, just seen it in regular 2D. Higher 3D is top notch for it, and I can definitely see why it could be a film that could really be a lot of fun seeing it like that. But just seeing it in 2D, might go see it again in 3D, because it, again, just sounds like it'd be a lot of fun that way. But yeah, so overall, I liked it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm a big Marvel fan, always have been. I've loved, or at least really liked, most of the MCU movies, and I think Doctor Strange is a pretty good addition to it. I wouldn't say it's my favorite Marvel movie, but as far as like the Marvel Cinematic Universe and that continuity goes, I think it's probably like somewhere in the middle, or like the high, or just like a little bit above the middle perhaps. And again, it's hard to say. I might have to do like a ranking sometime of my favorite Marvel movies, but I put it at about the same level as Ant-Man, I think. I never did a video on Ant-Man, which I probably should do, but I put it about there, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I actually probably liked it a little bit more than Ant-Man, just because I was just more interested in the whole concept of the story in general and the character. But that's just me personally. But yeah, so this movie starred Benedict Cumberbatch as Dr. Stephen Strange, and he's a brilliant surgeon. He's very steady, very good with his hands. And unfortunately, he is in a accident, and this really disables him. And or at least it makes it so he probably won't be able to use his hands, and he'll lose what he takes so much pride in. And Doctor Strange, before the movie takes him on this journey, before it sort of changes him as a person, he's very arrogant. Very Tony Stark-like in a way, if you want to draw that comparison. He's very, people would say stuck up, or he's at least very full of himself, really. And, and he has this sort of like on-again, off-again interest with Rachel McAdams' character, Nurse. But once he has the accident, he becomes very desperate. He looks into anything he can, and that's where he comes across, this organization, or this company in another country, and that turns out to be, of course, connected to the Ancient One and this whole other realm we were never aware of. But yeah, I don't need to explain to you the whole plot. If you've seen it, you've seen it, and if you haven't, just watch the trailers. But like I said, I liked it. It was very different, yet similar to what we've seen in Marvel movies before. And as far as the different part of it goes, of course, this just involves a completely different elements than what we've seen in Marvel movies before. The usage of magic and more like a fantasy type of elements and things like that. We've seen some of that with some of the Thor stuff, but this goes much deeper into that type of thing. And so it's very different. It's not like our usual Captain Americas or Iron Mans, or like our big all over the city and just fists flying everywhere and stuff like that. It's different how it goes about. It's action sequences and stuff like that. And the effects on this, are pretty good. We get, a lot of people have compared this to like Inception and The Matrix and things like that, and I can see that because like right at the beginning we get a sequence of like all these buildings bending in this mirror-like world, which doesn't affect our actual world, and the way they do that, just everything turning on itself and them having to run along and all that. I think it's very cool yet weird to watch. And some of the the CGI on the buildings when they do that, sometimes it looks just like ever so slightly off, but it definitely makes up for it later on. And Doctor Strange just becomes more and more of a fun film to watch as it goes along, as Stephen Strange goes on this journey of sort of, I don't want to say self-discovery, but more so just seeing what he can truly be and sort of like rising above himself as a person, becoming this completely other entity than what he thought he could be. And as far as the villains go in this movie, we had Mads Mikkelsen. We had Mads Mikkelsen playing. I'm just looking at the name, so I'm not gonna be able to pronounce this. But he plays the main antagonist of the film, or at least besides Dormammu. But he's like our main threat, throughout the movie anyway. We'll talk about Dormammu a little bit later. But he plays this former student to the Ancient One. He had gone to her in a similarly desperate circumstance, losing his family and such. But he was a lot more hot-headed. He was a lot more sort of aggressive, I guess, than Strange was. And he broke off, and he ended up stealing pages from this special book. And thus, he's coming after it, to do something or other, right? Yeah, I'm not the best person to describe the story, I guess. But Mads Mikkelsen as a villain, he did alright, I think. Marvel movies, as much as I enjoy them, they do have a tendency to not have the greatest of villains, really, minus Loki. They just haven't done a lot with, as far as, making compelling villains, minus, your kingpins and, people like that. Marvel villains in the movies can be a bit bland, a bit sort of one note as far as their motivations. Very just simple, cut and dry. I want to take over this. I want to do all this because of something. And unfortunately, Mads Mikkelsen's character doesn't really change that. We do get a story about his perspective on the Dormammu thing and how Dormammu might be this answer to actually giving them something, through all this that they've been through. But, it's full of crap. Doctor Strange even points out his eyes. You think if you're the good guy, you'd look like that. But, so as a villain, the character was, very one-note, your typical Marvel villain, unfortunately. But Mads Mikkelsen, he did all right in the role, working with what he could. Who wouldn't want to, be in a big-budget Marvel movie? Minus, Jason Statham, apparently. But Mads Mikkelsen's performance was alright, I know a lot of people like him. I need to watch more of Hannibal for sure. But, sometimes I feel like he's a bit dull, and that kind of comes through here. But he does alright, he didn't have a whole lot to work with, as I said. But him and Cumberbatch have some fun, sort of semi-funny exchanges once in a while. Then he had Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One, and she did pretty good, There's actually a particular scene in this, of course there's some spoilers in this video as it says in the title. Her and Strange share this scene when she's actually dying, and she's sort of just letting it all process, and she knew her time was coming. She talks about how she's seen this in the past, and so she's seen this one moment and nothing past that. And just when her and Strange, they had this conversation about time and how things end and things like that, and about her life and his, I can't do it justice. I'm not going to be able to repeat the words or anything, or the lines, but I thought it was a very well written scene with the dialogue, and both Cumberbatch and Swinton did really well, and I think she did a good job as a character. And it actually, made me tear up a little bit, I'll admit. Then we had Rachel McAdams. Like I said, she's sort of the love interest to Strange, someone who he pushes away because of his arrogance and his frustration. That's really just an underlying current for other psychological problems. But she does fine. She's definitely an alright actress, and she's definitely one of the more likable ones we've seen in the Marvel movies. She's definitely more fun to watch than, say, Gwyneth Paltrow in the Iron Man films, at least to me personally, anyway. But she's there for what she is. It doesn't really go past that too much. Then he had Benedict Wong as Wong. He's sort of the keeper to all the valuable relics in the books, and he sort of becomes a comic relief a little bit later into the movie. I thought he did all right. And then he had Ejiofor as Carl Mordo, and he's the character who eventually becomes the villain, towards the end of the movie, or at least setting up for it in the next film. and I thought he did an alright job as well. He's like at first a friend and sort of another student to the Ancient One. And he's a friend of Strange at first until they really get divided on how Strange handled Dormammu at the end. But yeah. So all the performances were fine, but of course Benedict Cumberbatch was definitely the highlight of it, acting-wise. I know at one point they were going with like Marquand Phoenix or something like that, but I think Cumberbatch is definitely the right choice for it. He shows the arrogance of the character very well, he shows his growth, he's good at some of these quips once in a while, and you can see the character has a heart too, and I think he did a good job with it overall, and I really am eager to see more of him, with the Avengers and such in a couple of years now. Like I said, the villain was pretty generic. The story, it's kind of what we've seen before. This arrogant character eventually having to learn a lesson, then becoming this better person and more powerful force because of it. We've seen that in Iron Man, we've seen that in Thor. So it's really nothing new, unfortunately, but it was still quite a bit of fun to watch. Like I said, the action sequences are very different, and they just get better as they go along as Strange sort of becomes more and more aware of what he's capable of. And when he acquires the cape, it's kind of fun, the cowl. It just wraps around a guy's head and just like, hits him against the ground over and over. So it really has a mind of its own. That made for some, a couple funny moments. And Strange, of course, also has this, Infinity Stone with the necklace he's wearing. And, of course, this is tying into Thanos, I'm guessing. And he also discovers that he can reverse time and sort of put time in a loop as well, and when they do that, it's really well done with the effects and the way it's filmed and such. And Dormammu as a villain, he's basically a big CGI monster, like entity type of thing. This might not be the last we've seen of Dormammu, but I think he was alright. I like the voice for him, and he looked somewhat creepy with the effects in the other realm when Strange went to go meet him head on. And I like how they handled that, Dormammu, I've come to bargain. I like how Strange dealt with that. It's a pretty clever way that I didn't really expect. But yeah, I don't want to talk for too long in this video. It is 1 a.m. right now. But overall, I like Doctor Strange quite a bit. Like I said, Cumberbatch does a really good job. I'm eager to see more of him for sure. We see him and Thor having exchange in a credits scene. He's going to help Thor and Loki find Odin. It should set up for Thor's next bit of it. Then we also have Mordo, of course, being set up as a villain in the after credit scene. But yeah, overall, I really liked it. Cumberbatch does a really good job. Can't wait to see more of him alongside our Avengers. The plot, although generic, as well as the villain, it's still, fine, I guess. But the action is definitely a little bit different for the Marvel movies. I like the effects behind it, and it definitely makes for a more unique and entertaining watch. Something different at least. And I do recommend seeing it in 3D because there's plenty of moments just right at the beginning that just don't really call for it. But yeah, I really liked it. I'm going to give it like a B minus, I think. Not one of my favorites, but probably one of the better ones over the past 2 years, I think. And watch my cat right there jump. She did it. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Then let me know what you guys thought about the movie. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, like, subscribe, and peace.